Thank you for being here today. We got tied up at the White House, and I'm sorry for the delay. I truly apologize for that. But I'm delighted to welcome you back, and our Secretary to testify before the subcommittee for our budget of 2027 from the President's Office, requests for the department, and thank you for your team and your continued partnership, and I certainly look forward to working together to ensure we meet the nation's infrastructure and transportation needs at such a pivotal point. And I'm also pleased to be joined by our ranking member, Senator Gillibrand, who has been a great partner in writing and passing FY 2026 THUD appropriation bill into law. I hope to build on that success through continued bipartisan collaboration as we craft this next fiscal year 2027 bill. Every fiscal year is different and comes with its own set of challenges. Notably, the IIJA advance appropriations will sunset at the end of this fiscal year, which may leave significant gaps in funding for crucial infrastructure and needs across the transportation modes. I've heard from many of my constituents across my home state of Mississippi about the need for continued investment in our surface, aviation, maritime, and safety projects. I look forward to this subcommittee playing a vital role in ensuring we continue to meet many of these targeted investments through our annual appropriations bill. While I'm encouraged by several items in the budget that I will get to in a moment, there are several areas that cause concern. As I shared with you last year, I remain disappointed in the department's proposed cuts to the Essential Air Service Program. The EAS program is critical to connecting our nation's rural communities like those in Greenville, Tupelo, Meridian, and Hattiesburg, Mississippi, to the broader transportation network. Mr. Secretary, as a former member of Congress with multiple EAS airports in your district at that time, I know you understand the importance of this program in supporting rural communities with dependable commercial air service. Significant funding cuts would jeopardize economic development and threaten jobs in local communities across the country, as this program supports more than 170 small and rural communities across 35 states. I'm also concerned about the administration's proposed elimination of funding for the Build Competitive Grant Program. The BUILD program is necessary to support multimodal and multi-jurisdictional projects across the country that are more difficult to fund through other grant programs. BUILD grants are especially impactful in rural America, where most of our roads miles exist, and as a result, so do many of our nation's safety and mobility challenges. For example, just last year, this administration awarded $21.3 million through the BUILD program for a project I supported and advocated for, the US 49 and Mississippi 13 interchange project in Simpson County, Mississippi. Investing in rural America through programs like BUILD fosters economic growth, connects rural residents to essential services like schools and hospitals, and improves the quality of life for communities that may lack the resources necessary for infrastructure improvements. Notably, I was also disappointed in the absence of your surface transportation reauthorization proposal in your FY 2027 budget. As the department is ultimately the one who carries out the programs created and funded by Congress, your expertise is necessary to help inform this body's decision-making as we write our annual FY 2027 bill. I hope you and your team will work with us during this process. Now for the good news. Let's first talk about aviation. Mr. Secretary, last year you testified before this subcommittee about the need for significant federal investment to modernize our air traffic control system. And I am proud to say this committee delivered and provided $4 billion in FY 2026 for the FAA facilities and equipment programs, which includes funding ATC modernization efforts and builds on the down payment of Congress provided through the 2025 reconciliation bill. While this was certainly a monumental step in the right direction, you and I know that there's more work to be done. I will look forward to sharing with this committee updates on the department's implementation of this critical modernization funding and how additional resources will help deliver the world's safest and most advanced aviation system. I was encouraged to see the department's $4 billion request for the FAA Facilities and Equipment Program, which includes $1.5 billion to continue ATC modernization efforts. This funding would provide our air traffic controllers with modern display systems at more than 400 airports across the country, supporting transitioning legacy automation systems to a modern common automation platform and alleviate airspace constraints to reduce delays, among other things. I look forward to partnering with you, Mr. Secretary, to ensure we continue to build the safest and most efficient ATC system in the world and improve the customer experience for all flying passengers. I also want to commend you, Mr. Secretary, for your leadership in addressing the shortage of air traffic controllers. And I support the FY 2027 budget proposed to fund the FAA's ongoing surge to hire and train the next generation of controllers. On another important topic, I am pleased to see the FY 2027 budget include funding for the Federal Railroad Administration's CRISI and Rail Crossing Elimination Grant programs. As this administration prioritizes safety and efficiency, improvements across our nation's entire transportation network, these two FRA grant programs are critical to ensuring the safe transportation of people and goods on freight and passenger rail lines, while also addressing safety challenges with rail grade crossings. These programs, like the previously mentioned BUILD program, have such a profound and direct impact on local communities by bolstering national supply chains, reducing congestion, and making the overall rail network safer and more efficient. Mr. Secretary, I'm also encouraged by your strong statements of support and the department's actions to invest in our domestic shipbuilding industry. As you know, Mississippi and its shipbuilding capabilities are well positioned to support the administration's agenda to restore America's maritime dominance by returning critical shipbuilding programs to experienced American-owned hands. I am pleased the department's budget once again proposes significant investments in PIDP and small shipyard grant programs. These grants will help improve in-house shipbuilding capabilities, support the commercial and defense industries, improve supply chains, and stimulate economic growth in and around ports while improving both safety and efficiency. Finally, we need to make sure that our appropriations bill strikes a balance to meet the needs of all Americans, especially those in rural communities which face unique transportation and economic development challenges. We will work through these challenges to produce a bipartisan product worthy of Senate consideration. And as I've said many times, I believe that our funding decisions should be guided by fiscal responsibility with the taxpayers in mind. Secretary Duffy, I look forward to hearing from you and working together for the American people to ensure that we have the safest, most reliable transportation network in the world. And now I turn to Senator Gillibrand for her opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate this committee very much. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your time, for our earlier conversation and the work you do for the country. We agree that a functioning transportation system is vital to everyday life. In New York City, transit and passenger rail service provides the most efficient way to get around, moving about 5 million people every day. New York's ports, the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, and SUNY Maritime College are critical to our economy and national security. Highways and bridges are a lifeline for connecting communities in every corner of the state. Bike lanes, sidewalks provide safe routes to school for children. Planes connect us around the world. We need the federal government to continue to be strong and make those sustained investments in all modes of transportation. And if we pick winners and losers, it has untold negative impacts. This real world is a challenge, and we need to address it head on. When trains break, Americans miss work. When roads aren't reliable, children miss school. When gas prices spike 50% because of the decisions of this administration, Americans can't afford to see each other or support their small local businesses. This is the real world American people are dealing with every single day. Republicans, independents, Democrats. We need reliable and safe transportation, not partisan punishment or distractions. The American Society of Civil Engineers 2025 report card gave America's infrastructure an overall C. That's better than where we were in 2021, and it shows the significant investment in the bipartisan infrastructure law is helping. But a C is just above failing, and some critical sectors continue to lag seriously behind. Aviation and roads got a D+, our transit got a D. These grades would upset any parent in America, and it shows there's so much more work we have to do. For this committee, that means funding all modes of transportation and ensuring we continue the nearly $37 billion in advanced appropriations from the bipartisan infrastructure law in our fiscal 2027 bill. If we don't, projects to upgrade airport terminals, repair bridges, maintain and expand subway services will stall. If we go back to the 2021 funding levels, Americans and our economy will suffer, costing about 344,000 jobs and $5 trillion in economic output nationally, and cost American families about $700 each a year. New Yorkers are furious. They're upset that the administration is making everything from gas to food more expensive. Meanwhile, the president is building a golden ballroom, telling the American people he thinks affordability is a hoax. The choice we have is very simple, and I hope this can be bipartisan. We must continue an all-of-the-above approach in transportation to lower costs for families, strengthen the economy, and support good-paying jobs. The problem with the budget that you offer is it slashes funding for hugely important issues. We cannot slash funding for public transit projects by 29% or Amtrak by 13%. The Northeast Corridor gets 628,000 people to where they need to go every single weekday. There are nearly 50 projects in the Capital Investment Grants Program in blue and red states, counting on us to continue to invest in their communities. As Congress grapples with how to continue these investments, it is the department's job to execute on the funding we have already provided. I remain very concerned, as the chairwoman said, with action on grants. At the start of the administration, DOT embarked on a self-imposed bureaucratic process of re-reviewing every previously awarded and already eligible grant. Over 1 year, your continued lack of transparency and failure to respond to countless questions from this committee are unacceptable. From what we have been able to gather, you, one, have canceled at least 45 projects worth $5.3 billion, are keeping over 300 projects in an endless review limbo, have forced grantees to remove completely legal activities from their projects, are arbitrarily cutting grants by 10%, and are letting funding lapse to the tune of at least $445 million last year. In New York State, and all of us will talk about our own state's worries, in New York State, you have canceled about $140 million in projects. $345 million for 18 projects remain stuck. And the Gateway Tunnel project, which I will ask you about, one of the most urgent infrastructure projects in America, has been under review for over 7 months with no end in sight. The project has done everything you asked and yet is still under review, and construction is only happening today because the courts have mandated it. Combined, these actions create a concerning pattern of attacks on communities and against transportation choice. It's hard not to see the tilt towards punishing blue cities and blue states. I think we can all agree our cities, counties, and states should be making decisions on what works best for their communities, not bureaucrats here. While there are things we disagree on, I do commend you for several successes. I commend you on your focus and enthusiasm on aviation safety and improving facilities at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in Kings Point. This good progress has made a difference. Good progress is also being made on the air traffic control modernization, and your commitment to hiring and training more air traffic controllers is clear. Mr. Secretary, I look forward to the conversation of this committee, and I appreciate your testimony today. Thank you, Chair.
Now, Mr. Secretary, we recognize you.
Chairman Hyde-Smith, Ranking Member Gillibrand, members of the subcommittee, thank you for having me here today. Very grateful for that. Looking forward to questions on EAS from the chairwoman, and also looking forward to a very bipartisan, friendly hearing today with all of you. For the past 16 months, with your support, the Department of Transportation has been hard at work delivering wins for the American people. We have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to revitalize the critical infrastructure that millions of Americans rely on every single day. From our runways, to our roads, to our railroads, we have upgraded our national infrastructure, invested in the backbone of our economy, and made life safer for American families. We are aggressively moving to clear the backlog of 3,200 grants left behind by the previous administration. Our goal is simple: to ensure these grants deliver safe, enduring infrastructure that will serve Americans for generations to come. At the FAA, we have kick-started a historic overhaul of our air traffic control system. This was made possible because of the Congress, and I thank you for that. Thanks to the Working Families Tax Cut Act, we received $12.5 billion as a down payment to begin deploying state-of-the-art equipment across airports nationwide. To date, we've replaced 50% of legacy copper and have moved to fiber. We've converted 278 radio sites, installed 58 new surface awareness systems, and transitioned 17 towers to electronic flight strips. But technology, as the ranking member mentioned, is nothing without people. Since last March, we've hired a record number of air traffic controllers, 2,400 of them. And our innovative gamer recruitment campaign has also smashed records, resulting in over 12,000 applicants in just 24 hours, which is pretty remarkable. This was the most successful recruitment launch for controllers in FAA history. On our roads, we're also restoring integrity and safety to the American trucking industry. It was the policy of the last administration to allow for unqualified foreign drivers to get behind the wheel of a truck. Those days are over, and I think that's a bipartisan issue. We want safe commercial drivers on American roads. We've worked with states to cancel 28,000 illegally issued licenses for unqualified foreign drivers, and we are holding non-cooperative states accountable. We've also knocked more than 20,000 drivers out of service for failing to meet basic requirements, like reading our road signs or being able to communicate with law enforcement. These changes aren't just keeping you and your family safe on the road, they have the added benefit of boosting wages for our hardworking American truckers. Our commitment to historic safety standards, it's already delivering historic results. In 2025, we successfully reduced roadway deaths by 6.7% across the nation. This is the 5th largest drop in DOT history. This is saving lives and keeping families together. Through our Freedom to Drive initiative, we're working collaboratively with states to aggressively reduce traffic bottlenecks. That means maximizing roadway capacity, fast-tracking projects that alleviate congestion and congestion choke points, and leveraging the private sector and their partnerships to help us accomplish these goals. By following the law and restoring CAFE standards to the rightful levels, we are lowering the cost of the purchase of a vehicle at a dealership, saving the economy $1.9 billion, putting the American consumer in the driver's seat of what car they want to purchase, not Congress in the driver's seat of what we have to purchase as Americans. We're also working collaboratively with your states to finally make transit safe, clean, and dependable. Who would have thought that a Republican cares so much about transit? But I do. I want to make it great for all who travel on it. And this is blue states that usually use transit. Usually rural states like where I was from, we don't have a whole lot of transit. From WMATA here in Washington, D.C. to San Francisco, systems are tackling fare evasion, reducing crime, and protecting riders and transit workers alike. We're also building faster than ever by empowering states like Texas and Nebraska to take control of their own environmental reviews. We are cutting red tape and delivering major projects on time and on budget. We're also unleashing American innovation like never before. And I'm going to start going faster, Madam Chair, because I see my red light is on. In the last year, we've updated autonomous vehicle regulation for the first time in a decade. ensuring that EVs are not just built here, but the innovators stay here. And through our advanced air mobility strategy, we will soon see eVTOLs, drones, and other exciting innovations making life more convenient and affordable here in America. And when it comes to our rail, we're making generational improvements to the Northeast Corridor. That means cleaning up Union Station, investing in Union Station, and a transformative investment in New York's Penn Station, $8 billion, by the way. We're also repurposing funds from California's high-speed rail and putting $2.4 billion into local rail crossings where it'll actually save lives. And to unleash American energy, we've helped restart the Sable pipeline in California, adding 60,000 barrels of oil of daily production. On our seas, finally, we're restoring American maritime dominance. It's often said that he who controls the seas controls the world. We're doing this by restarting domestic shipbuilding capacity and strengthening America's maritime workforce. We're also leading a technological renaissance on the water, pioneering advanced propulsion through small modular reactors for commercial vessels. And most importantly, we are reaffirming our commitment to the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. Yes, it's in Kings Point, New York, a great academy. We are restoring Kings Point as an institution worthy of the young patriots who train and serve there. As we approach America's 250th birthday, this administration is putting the people first with a complete historic overhaul of our nation's transportation system. The golden age of transportation is upon us. I thank you for having me, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And now we're going to go to Senator Collins for her questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The chair mentioned in her opening statement the importance of the Essential Air Service Program, and I want to start my first question on that issue. First, let me welcome you, Secretary Duffy. It's good to have you here today with us. The Essential Air Service Program is truly a lifeline to rural communities across the country, helping to connect them to national and global transportation networks, as well as to critical services such as healthcare. In Maine, the Essential Air Service Program plays a critical role in promoting economic development, expanding access to healthcare, and also supporting tourism, which is one of our state's largest economic sectors. There are 4 airports in Maine: Presque Isle, Rockland, Augusta, and Trenton, which serves Hancock County, that would not have any commercial air service but for this program. Mr. Secretary, that's why I'm very concerned about the substantial cut in the EAS program that is included in the President's budget. How would you plan to support air service to rural communities if you have that deep a cut in the EAS program?
First, Senator, thank you for the question. Not surprised that rural America asked me about essential air service. As you know, I also, when I was a member of Congress, had an essential air service airport in my district and one very close by, and I understand how important essential air service is for communities who normally do not get service, but for this program. I think we talked about this a year ago.
We did.
I remember. This is asking for the system to be more efficient, and that is the ask. But if you ask about the DOT and this president's commitment to essential air service, you would remember during the shutdown, there wasn't necessarily money to continue with essential air service. And this administration found resources to maintain service to rural communities, funding essential air service when the government was shut down. So I think that does underscore the commitment to the communities that are served by this great program. This is a budget that does reflect our desire to have efficiencies brought into it, but we do not want to see communities cut off from air travel.
That's good to hear, and I hope that you'll work closely with the subcommittee as we compile the bill. Mr. Secretary, I also want to commend you for your leadership in modernizing our nation's airspace system. You talked about replacing old legacy copper wire with fiber, and I know this has been an extremely important priority to you, and it's one that I share, and I commend you for leading the way. The department's air traffic control system modernization efforts have the potential to enhance safety, something that's important to all of us, while improving the reliability of controller communications, increasing surveillance capabilities, and reducing the individual workload, among many other benefits. I know that the personnel at the Bangor and Portland, Maine airports appreciate the technological improvements and your focus on also addressing staffing shortages. I was very happy to hear you talk about hiring more than 2,000 new controllers. That is absolutely critical. I want to point out to you that the Bangor Airport in particular has been assessed to be one of the most understaffed airports in terms of the tower in the country. And so I hope that that will be a priority for you. What do you think about the possibility of giving bonuses or some sort of financial incentives to controllers who are willing to relocate or initially locate after they've come out of training in those airports in the country that are most understaffed?
So, Senator, first of all, I appreciate your support. You've been a great advocate. And by the way, listen, if I could just take a moment, I believe this is an American project, and I don't think there's any disagreement. I think everybody here wants to see us get this job done, and it's not easy. This is not an easy undertaking, and we wanted to do this 20 years ago. 25 years ago, this body had a conversation about next gen and giving billions of dollars, and you spent the money, but we didn't get the result, and I'm not blaming anybody, but I want to work with this body on the resources that we need, but also keeping you informed. And if we're behind or we're ahead, we will tell you where we're at. I think you're entitled to that, and this body took a leap of faith on us to say this is the time and these guys can get it done, and we owe that to you. And I'll continue to keep you with the FAA administrator up to date on where we're at, and are we on track, on time, are we behind, and if so, why? But this is a broader conversation. Sometimes folks want to go to Bangor, Maine. It's a great place to live.
It is.
And
I live there.
And they don't pay as much. But also there's an issue with, and this is maybe a conversation we could more broadly have. If you have to go to Senator Gillibrand's towers, it's more expensive in New York. It's expensive in LA. It's expensive in DC. And our cost of living for the controllers and how much we can pay them to accommodate the cost it actually takes out of their paycheck to reside in these certain communities. I think that's a conversation we should have together, because it's gotten expensive in America. I was just down in Miami, same thing there. It used to be a lower cost location or moderate cost, and now it's gotten to be very, very expensive. So maybe that's a conversation we could have, that we can get controllers to small airports, but also get them to take on the more expensive, bigger airports and compensate them for the cost with housing and other cost to the family. But thank you, Senator, for your support.
I appreciate that, and I do certainly recognize that the cost in New York City is way higher than in Bangor, Maine. It's perhaps not as much of a difference to Portland, Maine these days as far as housing is concerned. But my point is, if these larger urban airports have a sufficient number of controllers despite the fact that the cost of living is higher, it seems to me providing financial incentives for people to go to the woefully understaffed towers, such as in Bangor, would make sense. And I would urge you to consider that.
I would be happy to work with you on that and see what is the root cause of why we don't have enough controllers in Bangor. And we could have that conversation. I'll do some research on it.
Great.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Gillibrand.
Thank you. So, Mr. Secretary, you and I have talked at length about your approach towards transportation. You want certain things out of different states in order to fund certain things. So you and I have talked about Second Avenue Subway. That's finally in compliance, and that is going forward. Right now, Gateway Tunnel is under review. What's the status of that review, and when do you think it will be completed?
So the resources are flowing to both of those projects. And, you know, we were doing a review on race-based contracting versus merit contracting. The Supreme Court indicated projects couldn't do that. And that happened during the shutdown. I only had one staff from the Civil Rights Office, so it did take more time. And then once the staff did come back, there was a backlog in the office. So, but the money is flowing to both of those projects. And Gateway is I think it's probably the biggest project in the Western Hemisphere.
Correct. So when do you think the review will be done?
If not done now, shortly.
Shortly. Okay. I will hold you to that shortly, because obviously it is such an important economic project for the entire Eastern Seaboard and the entire nation. And we don't want more delays, because we know that when you have delays, costs increase.
Yeah,
So,
but it's not delayed now. Money is going to the project.
okay. So now I want to talk to you about something that is less easy. I saw your ad. You want to go fast. I saw that. But I did not like the fact that you bragged about cutting funding to New York. That sounded like a political argument that is not a very nice thing to say about a state that has 20 million people that need to get to work every day on critical infrastructure. So I don't like that quote in your ad. I thought that was a very inappropriate thing to say. I also do not like your Great American Road Trip. And I get you have experience in that. I get you want to promote America and how beautiful and amazing it is. I get all the good reasons why you wanted to do that. And I get it's time with your family, all those things. I don't like it because right now in New York, people are suffering. They are extremely stressed out. They're stressed out about the cost of gas, which has gone up by 50% under this administration. They're upset about the cost of everyday household goods. They're upset about the cost of groceries and housing and healthcare. So there's stresses. I don't think they're going to get to go on that great American vacation that they'd like to go on. I think a lot of families are not actually going on vacation this summer. And when I went and met with a bunch of gas stations across my state just a couple days ago, the cost of well over $4 a gallon in every gas station, $5 a gallon, over $6 a gallon for diesel, it's extremely stressful. And I don't like the fact that this Great American Vacation reality TV show took days and days of filming. I don't like the fact that it was paid for by companies that you have to oversee, companies that you work with. And in our jobs, that would be pay for play. It would be 100% illegal. It would be inappropriate on every level and not tolerated. And in this era where President Trump's spending money building a golden ballroom that we don't need, that he's spending $1 billion a day on bombs that people would far rather he be spending on healthcare or housing. This Great American Road Trip, it doesn't smell right. It may be fast, but it's fast and loose with the rules. I don't like it. I think it's wrong. And I think you should explain to the American people why you should spend your time and why you should be getting a vacation that is paid for by companies that you regulate. I think those things are highly problematic, and it makes me extremely anxious because the American people and New Yorkers in particular probably can't afford their vacation this summer at all.
So I appreciate that, Senator. First off, in the ad, you said a lot, and I unpack some of the allegations that you made. First, in regard to New York, we've asked for all states to revoke illegally issued driver's licenses. Every state has complied but New York. And we have tools to pull money from New York, and we did. California even complied.
But the point is, Mr. Duffy, Secretary Duffy, I don't mind that you have rules and that you have a different way of doing the Department of Transportation. What I mind is that you bragged about it and made a joke about it.
I'm also
it's
bragging,
not.
Senator,
it is not
Senator,
appropriate
do you
for
want
a
me to answer the question?
secretary
Do you want me to answer
to demean an entire state by that joke.
So we're going to give $8 billion to rebuild Penn Station. Is that a joke?
No, but
No, you'd welcome that, right? And I've asked for your subways to be cleaner.
with our tax dollars.
Right,
You got
make
that
it
money
cleaner.
because we give it to you
And
from
then,
New Yorkers.
And then we get a choice where to put it, and you give me that. You give me that discretion.
We
And so
also
you give me the
appropriate money
discretion,
that
and-
then you don't grant.
So let me-
So
let me
we
talk to
are
you
the
about-
appropriators, not you.
No, I know you
We appropriate the money. You're supposed to spend it. Sometimes
I
you
make
choose not to,
decisions on how
and we
to
have to
spend it.
file lawsuits to get you to spend the
Want to
money.
make allegations? You don't want? Can I respond? Do you want me to respond to, or just if you want to take all your time is up? But if you want to just sit and vent, or want me to
Let's talk
respond,
about
you let me know.
let's talk about the Great American Vacation.
The Great American Road Trip?
Yes, let's talk about that.
This was a project, Senator, and I want to encourage Americans to see their beautiful country. And as we can see from this hearing, there's a lot of partisanship in America. This seeing your country, experiencing your country through the window of a car is a beautiful thing. It actually unites America. Maybe spending time with your children is a wonderful experience.
It is a wonderful thing,
Great,
but your vacation was paid for by Boeing,
So, hold on,
Toyota,
okay,
United
this
Airlines,
is a project,
Enterprise,
Senator.
Shell, Royal Caribbean Group,
So,
all
Senator,
organizations and
Do
companies.
you want me to respond to you? Can I respond?
But you're,
Okay, so let me-
you're
I will
responding
respond.
with platitudes, and it's
No,
not.
but I'm telling you what the project was.
Got
okay,
it.
2 days, quickly in and out, and I did film the Great American Road Trip to encourage Americans to travel. I'll answer your question. So this was officially part of America 250, and you all sanctioned America 250. This is an official partner. No, it's an official partner of America 250. Also, this body told me that I'm supposed to promote tourism and travel, and that's what it does as well. Now, hold on a second. No, you're
Then
making
it shouldn't be paid for by people that you have oversee. That you oversee.
Can I respond to that?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize. I'm sorry.
So if I could respond, this was a partnership with a nonprofit. It was a nonprofit, and the nonprofit.
Funded by organizations and companies that you oversee.
Do you have jurisdiction over law firms? So you received $7 million in political contributions
God.
from the trial bar.
Honestly, this has nothing to do with members of Congress. This has to do with
has
the fact
everything to-
that you went on
everything to
a
do-
paid
I
vacation
didn't go on a paid
that was
vacation.
paid by
You-
companies that you
received
oversee.
$7 million
That's
from the trial bar.
campaign.
You have
It's
jurisdiction.
different.
You have jurisdiction on the trial bar. $7 million. When we go down the list of what else you received, you have jurisdiction.
listen,
you actually passed legislation
Secretary
for the
Duffy,
trial bar.
This
So don't give me
hearing
that.
is about you
I didn't make any
and
money.
this administration.
No, it's about you. I didn't make any
This
money.
hearing,
I
you
didn't
are the
make any
witness,
money.
I am not the
didn't make-
witness.
I don't have any. Well, maybe you should be.
Well, you know
maybe
what?
You should answer the
Secretary
American people
Duffy-
for $7 million
Secretary
from the trial
Duffy,
bar.
Secretary
Senator,
Duffy,
$7 million.
I think you should be
That
telling
goes in
this
steak
committee
dinners. That goes to
why-
put your ad on television. That's all to you. You spend that money.
This is what I'm concerned about.
Steak dinners,
You are
please.
political, and you are
We're
using
over
your
our
position in
time right
political
now.
ways.
$500,000 paid by the trial bar to fly you on a private jet.
I've never been on a private jet.
Zen Air.
I don't.
Air?
Never been on a private jet. No, we don't.
We're out of our
$462,000
We
time.
private
don't.
jets.
We don't. Members of
So
Congress
they pay
aren't
for you to
allowed.
fly on a yes, senators
Not
can.
true.
It is.
Not true.
Answer to that.
You know what, Mr.
I made
Secretary?
nothing.
Your
They
job.
put your face on
job-
television.
your
face
job-
on television, your steak dinners, your vacations by the trial bar. I make
We're going to
nothing
go to
on this.
Senator
No money.
Capito, recognized you for your
you.
question.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And thank you for the visit to Wheeling, West Virginia.
It was great to be there. Thank
I
you.
appreciate that. I want to talk about highway funding and bridge funding.
Great.
The Bridge Investment Program. I'm concerned because there is still more to be done to manage these discretionary programs, one of which is the Bridge Investment Program. I've had concerns because it's costly and time-intensive. So these concerns were underscored when $370 million in contract authority out of the Highway Trust Fund lapsed. last year. The biggest driver of that was the Protect discretionary grant program, and you and I have talked about discretionary grant programs. Last week, the department published the second amendment under your tenure of the Bridge Investment Programs notice, or NOFOs. These funds have already been NOFO'd before, and states have been waiting years for multiple rounds of amendments and applications. Some project sponsors are now required to reapply. Now, you know the reason I'm asking this question is because I have 3 bridges in this program, and I don't know, but I have a feeling that they're going to have to reapply after they've been waiting. So what is the status of this? What is the reason to offer that second amendment to have people have to reply, and what are you doing to better manage these?
So I think so we do have a NOFO for the small bridges coming out. I don't know if that was yesterday or today is coming out, that NOFO. But in regard to the Protect money, we got that NOFO out about a year ago, a little less than a year ago. But the funds expired at the end of the fiscal year, and we announced the grants, but the grant recipients didn't have enough time to go through the permitting process, and that's why that money expired. If this body wants to send that money back to us for those projects, we're happy to take that and make good on those announcements.
Well, are you saying then that the ones that were awarded but not permitted have lost their opportunity and have to reapply? Is that what you're telling me?
So in Protect, the money goes away. And so it was, they could have been done a year before, but.
So what steps are you taking to avoid that from happening again?
So the money has been announced, and they have to go through that process to get the permits done.
Do you feel that they're going to go ahead and get their permits in time? I mean, are we going to run into the same problem?
I hope so.
That's why we're doing permitting reform, hopefully.
I hope so. But again, this body has the ability to send the money back that expired and make good on those projects.
Okay.
We can talk about that further if you'd like.
Okay. Well, I mean, I have a particular interest in bridge dollars because we have so many deficient bridges all across the country, but particularly you've seen our landscape. We got a lot of bridges.
It's beautiful.
I want to talk about Yeager, the air traffic control tower. We are one of the oldest operational, and actually might be now, I think, the only one still that is sponsor-owned. It's owned and operated by the airport, not by the FAA or a contract entity, and therefore it's been ineligible previously for federal grant programs. I'll just tell you, our approach lighting system was built in 1960, or not, commissioned in 1962. Our visual approach slope indicator was built in 1974. Our radar was in 1978. Our tower cab, 1950. And we have the oldest kaleidoscope in use. If you've ever gone into Yeager Airport, you want to make sure all these things are working because it's on the top of 3 mountains. So I'd like to also highlight that this airport is the home to the 130th Airlift Wing, which is always deployed at the tip of the spear whenever globally, and also the Marshall University Bill No Flight School. So we have a lot of students going in and out of that airport, learning how to fly to provide for the next generation of workforce training for future commercial pilots. So as you're moving forward, I understand now that these sponsor-owned are going to be eligible for funding to update because they've traditionally been excluded. Is that the case here, or are you familiar with this?
Well, so I would love to tell you that your story is unique in how old your systems are, but it's not unique. This is the story across districts and states in this country. The necessary investments have not been made. And so the dollars required to get all of our aviation systems up and make them state-of-the-art is going to cost a lot. But you mentioned your radar. We do have money for radar, and radars across the NAS are going to be replaced. We do have our radios coming across the NAS. But if you look at your tower, the resources for towers, we're going through an analysis on impact and age, and the limited resources we have, we're deploying those dollars.
You know, I don't want to misquote what the airport manager told me. The cost of the replacement of the tower, astronomical in terms of what I would, like $80 million or something like this for a small regional airport that's very critical. So we can talk on this further, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Reed.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, Mr. Secretary. The bipartisan infrastructure law expires at the end of September, which means that we're looking at a cut of about $36.8 billion,
Yes.
which were advanced appropriations under the law. And at the same time, you will admit readily that your programs are being oversubscribed by localities, particularly the bill program, where there's 800 applications requesting more than $10 billion. And the actual fiscal year budget you submitted up eliminates funding for bill grants. So we're in a very difficult situation. We've made some progress on our infrastructure. The American Society of Civil Engineers have given us their report cards. We went from a C- to a C+, or C rather, C- to C. We got a long way to go. So how is the Department of Transportation going to help states meet the needs of our aging transportation system and infrastructure with this fiscal cliff coming up?
That's a great question. So with our budget, I can't give you the advance appropriations. That's in the purview of this body. And so I've given you a budget that's consistent and actually more than what we had last year and then the year before that. But this body has the ability to do advanced appropriations. We don't do that in our budget. But if this body sees fit and wants to put dollars into these programs, I would welcome that. And I think America would too.
No, I think you're right. I think, though, stepping back, and I have some duties on the Armed Services Committee, with the huge request of $1.5 trillion for our defense budget, we're finding it very hard just to make ends meet on the domestic side. To increase your funding, I think it makes a great deal of sense, but it's going to be a difficult struggle. Senator Capito pointed out the Project Protect funds. And we in Rhode Island had 4 grants. 2 have been funding. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. But 2 are sort of not yet obligated. And we seem to be in a similar position of we need additional monies this year so that we can go back and fulfill the commitment we made. Are you going to try to also to sort of reinvigorate and put more funds in the Protect program?
Yes, that'd be wonderful. But just want to be clear, last year, the program recipients didn't have enough time to get the permitting done, and the money did expire. And this body has the ability to give that money back if you would like, and we can make those whole.
But you would be supportive of that?
Yeah, I would be.
Thank you. One area that you mentioned, I think is commendable, is air traffic controllers. I think we can do a lot more to streamline the process for retiring military or separating air traffic controllers to get into the air traffic controller business. And I would like to work closely with you to do that.
Sir, I appreciate that. I don't think we aggressively enough go after our controllers in the military. There's a great option for them to just fold right over into the FAA. I would just, if I could make this point too.
Yes, sir.
We do have an issue with the controllers. We have offered the controllers who are of the age of retirement. Those are our best controllers. We've offered them, and we were able to take this, from the budget, but we've offered them an upfront 20% cash bonus to stay on. Yeah. They'll stay on for a year, and every year they'll stay. We'll give them that money, but I think, again, we want to get more controllers in the pipeline, get more controllers from the military, but if we have those great controllers who are about to retire, if we can keep them on the job, that's even better for us. So we're working at all different sides of this problem.
Well, I would like to be helpful, particularly with the military access to the to controllers. A final question is that in the bipartisan infrastructure law, we put in safe streets and roads provisions, and it seems that the money has gone more to minimize automobile fatalities and accidents rather than pedestrian. And we're seeing pedestrian fatalities increase by 72% compared to the 30% increase in total fatalities. So I think a reconfiguration that might also emphasize pedestrian fatalities would be in order. And your comments?
And I care about the safety of all Americans, and I'd be happy to work with you on how we are using the program and how you would have envisioned the program operating.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Secretary, you and I have discussed at length in the past the funding for the FAA Center of Excellence, and it's the Assure program, the unmanned aircraft systems at Mississippi State, as well as the separate distinct funding for counter UAS efforts, both of those which are at Mississippi State. But they just really play a critical role in integrating the UAS into the national airspace system safely, and I want to thank you for your work on that. I very much appreciate that. My first question I want to talk about is truck parking. The committee continues to hear concerns related to the shortage of truck parking nationwide and the negative effects on safety, the efficiency, the supply chain, and the reliability of these trucks going up and down the interstates. And when they log out because of their time limits, having a place to park has become a real problem that you're well aware of. Without that sufficient parking, tractor-trailer drivers, they're forced to get on the side of the highways, off-ramps. I see them everywhere, the side streets, the shoulders, the rest areas, and just causing an unsafe situation. And Mississippi is a state with the fewest available public and private parking spots for these big rigs. And I see this firsthand all the time. We've been in the trucking business a long time, and I just notice these things and very conscious of it. But they're parked in unauthorized locations in order to comply with the hours of service requirements, which, you know, we want them to stop. But this just isn't safe for the truck drivers, and it's not safe for the travelers, obviously. Unauthorized parking can cause safety, maintenance, and congestion problems as well. And I was pleased this committee appropriated $200 million in FY26 to help address these concerns, but recognizes far more is needed to address this problem nationwide. What is the status on the guidance to state DOTs to get these funds allocated?
So we have a no-fo coming out on truck parking, and I appreciate the dollars, and I think all the truckers in America appreciate the effort. You're right, it's a safety issue and a security issue for them, and they spend more time looking for parking than they need to. So that's in the process of coming out. In regard to the Center of Excellence, I think that has to be done every year, and I saw the paperwork come up, I think yesterday, so that's in the process of moving as well.
Great, because that is critical for us. And, you know, we still mourn the lives of the mid-air collision right out here at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport last year. I don't think any of us will ever forget that day, and I remain committed to taking bold action to prevent any future aviation disasters that we can possibly prevent. Following its investigation of this tragedy, the National Transportation Safety Board issued its final report on the collision in January and found that the FAA lacked effective strategies to identify, assess, and reduce reoccurring mid-air collision hazards in that particular airspace. And despite available safety data showing repeated close encounters, the NTSB also issued a broad set of recommendations aimed at preventing similar accidents after finding these shortcomings in route designs, air traffic control practices, and the entire FAA safety analysis. I'm concerned with reports that the FAA does not plan to implement those NTSB recommendations identified in their final report. So, Mr. Secretary, in light of the recent near misses across the system and the findings in the NTSB's final report, what specific steps is the FAA taking to better identify recurring safety hazards and risks before they result in an accident? And how is the agency ensuring those lessons are being applied across the national airspace system, not just at Reagan National?
Yeah, so, the day after the crash, I took action to stop fixed wing and helicopter cross traffic in the Potomac. And the FAA, 3 months ago, I believe, stopped all cross traffic with visual separation between helicopters and fixed wing airplanes. I think there's a broader issue at play here. I think I told you last year that we were going to use new technology because there was 85 near misses in the DCA airspace that no one saw, and then people lost their lives. And it's our job to look and see where do those risks exist. And as we've used new technology, we do see risks in the airspace. One of the problems we have is to restructure the airspace. We have to go through NEPA. And so even when there's some critical issues that should be fixed in a month, it'll take years to go through the NEPA process on the airspace. And so if there could be some work, and maybe we could have a conversation offline of what we're seeing and what we would need from the committee to make sure we can take the appropriate action to move more quickly, I think that would be helpful. But I work closely with the chair of the NTSB. And just so you know, it takes time to go through a process, to analyze, to think through how things should be implemented, and the FAA is going through that process.
Thank you very much. And at this time, I'll recognize Senator Coons.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Ranking Member. I was quite pleased with where we ended up in the FY26 appropriations process, and I hope this year will be successful as well. Mr. Secretary, good to see you again. There's a number of things I'll just briefly be positive about. The shipbuilding initiative, I think, is something all of us welcome. The focus on air traffic and air safety, I think, is important. What I mostly want to focus on, though, is rail. I was encouraged to see your recent comments in a number of settings that the DOT is focused on ushering in the golden age of American rail. I share that goal as someone who grew up traveling on the Northeast Corridor regularly. I only wish that one chapter of your Great American Road Trip had put your whole family on a rail section, because I think that's a great way to travel with family. The Northeast Corridor is the heart of America's rail system. It carries 2,000 trains and 630,000 passengers every day. They had record ridership last year of 34.5 million. It takes a huge burden off highways and airport runways in the most densely populated part of America. And the Northeast Corridor operating expenses are fully covered by its revenues. But it's the capital expenditures that are funded jointly by states and Congress. And if you spend time in this part of the country, you know there's a huge backlog of infrastructure investment due to decades of deferred maintenance. They've added new routes from the Mardi Gras line that connects New Orleans to Biloxi, from the Downeaster that connects Maine into Boston, and they're making real progress on those lines. But the IIJA, which committed to advance funding, is, as several colleagues have mentioned, sunsetting. And this big backlog the NEC has can really only be addressed with forward funding. So the IIJA was a real success because it allows these badly needed capital projects to be done in a way that allows for hiring, training, deploying the workforce, procuring materials and equipment, and moving projects forward instead of on again, off again, 1 year, not 1 year, through long-term, multi-year funding. One of the things I'm not excited about in your budget proposal is the rescission of more than $4 billion of previously invested IIJA funds. Did you give any thought to reallocating or suggesting to this committee the reallocation of that? And have you given any thought to how critical these long-term investments in infrastructure are for the so-called golden age of American rail?
So a couple points. One, I would agree with you. We take passengers off roads. We alleviate the stress on roads. How the number of people that move in the Northeast Corridor is remarkable. Ridership is up. Dynamic pricing, which I don't always like because it gets to be expensive, but has, I think, worked to shore up the books of Amtrak. I mentioned earlier we're thinking about some ideas of, again, I don't like to look at Europe on how we should model ourselves, but Europe obviously does trains better than we do. And I think there's some
Europe
lessons.
does, Japan does, Korea does, China does.
Everyone does. You're right. So we're going to look at some different models. We're talking to the unions, and we'll obviously brief this body before we would take any action, but it's exciting that we could do things differently. But if we've pulled grants, obviously we want to put that money back in, and we try to make people whole on those projects. And if you have a specific that you're referring to, I'd be happy to.
I mean, more specifically, there's a proposed 13% cut to Amtrak overall, a 24% cut for the Northeast Corridor in your budget this year. The Northeast Corridor Commission projects $34 billion in capital costs needed over the next 5 years. This is something states come to the table and make significant investments. Help me understand why this big a cut for this vital part of the country, where if you lose the Northeast Corridor, you got to build a 14-lane highway, which we both know will never happen.
But no, I think it's important to understand that we make a budget proposal, and I'm right in line. I haven't made any cuts to rail. But on the advanced appropriations, I don't put that in my budget. That's what you all do on your own, and that's what you've done in the past. So your advanced appropriations, I don't assume that. I don't put that in my budget, which is why you're seeing a hole, because that's what you all did almost 5 years ago. So that's not an intentional cut. That's a job for this body.
Well, I'll just, for the benefit of the chair and ranking, suggest that I think that's a hole or a drop-off that we shouldn't allow to happen when we've got such a significant shortfall. Let me circle back to the point you just made in passing about different models, because I understand the FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration, under your direction, is saying to Amtrak to consider restructuring itself into three different entities, one for operations, one for rolling stock, and one for infrastructure. Reorganizations, when done thoughtfully, can be constructive, but I'm concerned this may be the first step towards a privatization or a fundamental restructuring. Can you commit to consulting with Congress in detail before any plan moves forward that would restructure Amtrak?
Absolutely, and this is akin to, you all had a debate about, should we privatize air traffic control? I've been very clear, no, not looking to privatize Amtrak. This is a way to give better transparency, and I think give some more insight for states in the kind of infrastructure builds that can actually benefit states as well. And so that's the purpose behind it, but I would welcome a conversation. When we get to the point where we have it fine-tuned, I would love to have a conversation. If you have some feedback for us, we would welcome that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Senator.
Madam Chair.
Senator Hoven.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Secretary Duffy, good to see you.
You
Thanks
too,
for
Senator.
being here. Appreciate all your hard work. I want to talk about the airport terminal project discretionary limitation. So we changed that in 2012 from 20 million to 30 million, but the interpretation FAA is using is that that's cumulative for any projects at airports since 2012 versus not on a per terminal project basis. So that is a problem with some of our fastest growing airports in these smaller markets. So what can we do to make sure that we have flexibility to meet? So, you know, we're working on getting the funding for the programs, but some of their projects are getting clipped by that, applying that as a cumulative limit.
Well, if you think we are interpreting the language incorrectly, I'm happy to have a conversation on how we should be interpreting it. What was the intent of this body? I don't want to get crossways with your intent, so I'd be happy to have that conversation.
So, yeah, that's it. Just, are you willing to work with us, see what we figure out so that these projects can move forward and we have flexibility?
100%, Senator.
Yeah, great. Good, that's what I'm looking for. Mental Health in Aviation Act. So we've passed that. That's legislation that I'd sponsored that we have now passed through the Commerce Committee, and it really updates the special issuance medical certification for both pilots and air traffic controllers. And we're hoping that we can move it through the Senate and over to the House here pretty quick. Your thoughts on improving that certificate and the need to do so?
I haven't spent a great deal of time looking at that, Senator, but I would and be happy to follow up. Hopefully, again, we've seen some differences in opinions in aviation between the two bodies, and hopefully the bodies are working together symbiotically to streamline the process. But I'll look at the legislation. I haven't seen it yet.
Based on your experience now, you wouldn't favor the House view over the Senate.
Well, we have kind comments for the Senate over here in the House.
So we appreciate all the work that you and Administrator Bedford are doing on updating the air traffic control system, $12.5 billion in the One Big Beautiful Bill. How's it coming? How you doing?
It's going very well. We are on track for the most part. I think of the 14 work streams, 10 of them are on track or ahead of schedule. We went 4 were slightly behind, but we believe that we can have this $12.5 billion spent in 2.5 years. Can I make a pitch to you though?
Yeah, that's my next question anyway, so go ahead.
Okay, so we're doing all the infrastructure, right? We're going to get new telecom and we're going to new radios and new radar, and that's going to be wonderful. It's going to make the system more resilient. It's going to be safer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the magic of this system is you need new software. The software is what's going to.
That was my next question. What do you need? What do you need now?
And so because the Senate, the House was a little more generous with how we could spend the money. The Senate was very specific in how we had to spend it. I would have probably made some different decisions, but I follow how you give me the money. I would like to have in 2.5 years, as this infrastructure is done with the $12.5 billion, at the same time, if we could be working on the common automation platform, and they're able to meet up at the same time, and as the infrastructure is done, so too is the software. I think it would be too bad if we get the infrastructure done, but we haven't developed the software to then make this because we want to impact the lives of the American people and their traveling experience. I will say that we are working on this smart system. Administrator Bedford might have talked to you about that, about how we can use technology to. Air traffic controllers don't have the tools of an iPhone. They're using it like not even a flip phone. Maybe the old bag phones are the big, maybe even a rotary phone.
Brick, yeah.
If we could give them some new tools to make their jobs easier, to stress them out less, but to give them better prompts, we can, I think, bring more efficiency into the airspace. We're working on that right now. If you want to go to the FAA, and you want to go to the FAA and see what they're working on, it's actually pretty cool. But the software is going to change the experience for the American traveler, and that's what we want to give them.
Have you started to build that into your budget request?
No, this would be a fee for service. We'd be able to
Okay.
pay for it. We're the common automation platform.
Authorization.
There's nothing off the
Do you
shelf
have an estimate in terms of cost at this point?
for the common automation platform. I think was $7 billion.
Okay.
So, but that's all new equipment in the facilities. One system that they use, no matter where they go, it's all going to be the same. Because we have the greatest airspace, the most unique airspace, the busiest airspace, and so there's nothing off the shelf. No other country has a system that we can buy, right? We have to develop our own, and so it's kind of using our great companies to work and think through what does this new state-of-the-art system look like, and it takes time to do that, and money to do it as well.
Yeah, to make sure you get it right. One final quick question. Air traffic controllers utilizing our universities, something we've worked at University of North Dakota, John D. Odegaard School of Aerospace and Aviation. That has been a game changer. You've been a champion of it, and anything we can do to help you with that, we want to do. But kudos on grabbing that and running with it.
Thank you. My brother-in-law went to flight school at UND. Loved it.
Fantastic.
Senator Murray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Secretary, you know how important the Interstate Bridge Replacement Project is across the Columbia River between Washington and Oregon. It's important for the entire West Coast, and it is really critical, as we have talked about many times, to keep this project moving and on track, and we know that delays mean higher costs. So I wanted to ask you, when you're in front of us today, will you commit to publishing the record of decision for the IBR project no later than July 1st?
Oh, I don't know that I got to take a look at that, but to the issue of the I-5, I have been wildly, aggressively involved in the process for the last year and a half. It's probably the project I know more about. Now, I think we have to work together. I think the initial estimate was $14 billion for that project. I think we have to work together to get to a number that's going to be
That is true, but today I just wanted to ask you about the record of decision, because delaying that is going to make it cost even more.
I'll look and see on the timeline. I don't know that I can commit to you by July 1st. Let me look, and I can circle back with you on that timeline.
Thank you. I want to ask you about the bipartisan infrastructure law. As you know, it expires September 30th.
Yes.
And communities across our country are immediately going to lose access to about $37 billion in transportation funding, along with tens of billions in other critical funds in other agencies. I heard Senator Gillibrand mention these facts earlier, but the American Society of Civil Engineers gives our infrastructure a C grade, roads and aviation D+, transit gets a D, and these grades tell us, really, that we have a lot more work to do. And if we don't, ASCE estimates that American families will pay $700 more a year, 344,000 jobs lost, and our economy is going to take a hit as well. So we have to address this infrastructure cliff in our 27 funding bills, or our cities, our airports, our transit systems are not going to have the funding that they need for vital projects in actually every one of our states. Meanwhile, we have a budget from the president, and he is proposing $500 billion more for the war budget, but his budget proposal does virtually nothing to prevent a $37 billion cut to this transportation funding. So I'll just be blunt. Is it the position of this administration that we should stop fixing our roads and bridges to fund a war abroad?
So, Senator, I appreciate the question. So first, when you look at the C rating, and we should be A-rated in America, I agree with you. You and I are on the same page.
No, I'm asking you about
I'll answer that question. I'm talking about
but I have limited time. So
Okay, so I have pulled out a lot of the green requirements that you all didn't put in the legislation, IIJA, and I pulled out a lot of the DI from the last administration to make us build faster and build better.
I know what you've been doing, but
just, you know,
the budget proposes a flat funding for transportation. It proposes a huge funding for war. So to all of us looking like
Senator,
at this budget, it's fewer bridges and more bombs.
No,
and I just got to say that as the committee, we have to address this infrastructure cliff in our funding bills. We cannot let this funding expire and leave our communities dry.
I think it's important that
that's
we're on.
my point. I just wanted
no,
you
I
to
take your point,
understand
but
that.
can we be on the same page? You all do the advanced appropriations, and you're melding together the budget with the advanced appropriations.
Correct, and that's what we've been doing for a number of years.
it's
And
not
all
actually
I'm
what we do.
saying is that
The
there's going to be a huge cliff, and instead of giving us a budget that helps
don't-
us
but
address that cliff, we did not
The
get
last
one.
administration didn't give you a budget that included advanced appropriations, and I didn't either. So we've actually increased the money in the base
But because the
budget.
cliff is this year, that is why it's
No,
critical.
but I never, if I came in and told you all what to do with advanced appropriations, you'd be offended by that.
No, but
That's
I
what we
am
don't
offended
do.
by a budget that comes in with $1.5 trillion more for war and no increases for infrastructure, when we all know that in October, there's going to be a huge funding cliff on transportation that was not addressed in the budget.
I have $114 billion, the biggest base budget in transportation ever submitted to Congress. But the advanced appropriations is not what I do. You all do the advanced appropriations.
And this is a problem we're all going to face. But let me move on, because I do want to address this issue, because over 39 million Americans are expected to hit the road for Memorial Day weekend. And you are encouraging Americans to spend the summer road tripping across the country. But let me just ask you, how much did you rack up on gas during your Great American Road Trip? I understand that was paid for by groups and sponsors.
Well, this
Is that
was
correct?
a nonprofit funded the Great American Road Trip.
The nonprofit actually solicited funding from private organizations.
Yeah, I did not, right.
Okay, do you know how much gas?
No, I don't.
You don't?
But I know it's not as much as it was under Biden, which was $5 a gallon.
Holy cow.
It's
Okay,
only
so just
$4.50 now.
listen.
Okay.
Americans don't have corporate sponsors to pay for their gas. And for families that are hitting the road this weekend, the national average gas price is now $4.50 per gallon. That is more than 50% higher than before Trump's war in Iran, when gas was less than $3 a gallon. And I just want to make the point that families are seeing this at the gas pump, but they're also seeing it costing more for airline trips. The cost of a domestic flight is up 31% over last year. And they, by the way, are stuck paying ridiculous junk fees. Why? Because you decided to rip up some basic protections that gave people automatic refunds and hotels when their flight was delayed or canceled. So here's the problem. Here's how Americans see this and who are talking to me. You've been recording a promo of yourself and not working to lower the cost.
Sure, Senator.
So this show is incredibly out of touch with where Americans are. And I echo Senator Gillibrand's concerns that it really raises some serious ethics concerns about who you answer to, because the people organizing your show solicited corporate sponsors and promised rewards at each level of funding.
Not true, Senator, to be honest, that's not true.
I'm looking at your thing, what you
That's
did
not
for
mine.
being
Listen, there's a
what-
memo of understanding that says no one gets any benefit
Okay, well,
for
let me just,
anything they
I'll
do to
ask you a
participate.
question, maybe you can answer it.
Sure.
If I'm an airline executive and I paid $1 million for this Great American Road Trip, what would I get out of that?
From me, nothing.
Well, look, as I said, the deck that is out there says that if you
So
give $1 million, you get 6 VIP invitations to receptions, you get to go to roundtables, you get to networking events.
if someone
Look,
from
let me
if someone
just-
from the healthcare industry gives you $2 million, what do they get for it? What do you
I
give
do
them?
not oversee I do not
What do you
regulate.
you have jurisdiction?
I do not regulate.
You have
I
jurisdiction,
do not
$2
regulate
million
the FAA.
to
Let
put
me
your
just
face
say
on
this.
TV, to
You
buy
need
steak dinners,
Mr. Secretary,
to go on vacations.
Listen to my point
That's what you
here.
do.
Mr.
Welcome to
Mr.
MAGA.
Mr.
Welcome to Drill Baby
Mr.
Drill.
Secretary,
Are you going to drill? Do you
please.
want to support lower gas prices?
Madam
I welcome
Chair,
that.
I ask my
Let's
time
drill.
back, please, so I
Let's
can ask a
refine.
question.
Let's
Mr.
pipe fuels
Mr.
across the
Secretary,
country.
You obviously
You have
came
not been
here with
supportive
a
of that.
book of every
You
one
haven't
of us,
supported
so
that,
that
Senator.
instead of answering our questions, you
I'm
could
answering your
attack.
question. You're asking
are
about
a-
gas prices.
I-
You have done everything you
Madam Chair,
can
can I
to
have my
increase
time
gas
back?
prices for Americans and make us buy
Mr.
EVs.
Secretary, this is my
Donald
time.
Trump is lowering the cost of energy.
You are
and
wasting
you know
my
that.
time.
You're wasting my time.
Responding with a book of claims that you have come at us.
Do
which
you
even-
deny
let
that
me
you got
just-
$2 million from healthcare? I can go down the list
Mr.
here.
Secretary, that is
Amgen
not.
gave you $140,000.
Mr. Secretary, it is my
Pfizer
time.
gave you
Madam Chair,
$102,000.
I am asking to be able to ask a question here. I do
I'm
not
just
need
pointing
an
out your
attack
record.
by a secretary who is the witness at this table that
And
is out of order.
What did Big Pharma
Secretary
get for
Duffy.
the 1.1 million that Big Pharma gave you? What did they get for it?
Mr. Secretary.
What did they get?
Seriously.
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 I want to know. I think America wants to know.
I find it
I got nothing from anybody.
I find it astonishing
I do too.
that you are so angry at a question that I asked.
I'm surprised that you are, Senator.
I am not. I'm sitting here trying to ask a question. I'm being interrupted rudely by a
About Big
secretary
Pharma?
who's here.
No,
Mr.
healthcare.
Secretary, let me just say this. Toyota, United Airlines, Shell, Boeing, Royal Caribbean, and Enterprise all sponsored your show. It is literally your job to make sure each of those companies are playing by the rule. So
Can I answer the
Toyota
question?
is sponsoring a show starring you, and it is your department, Mr. Secretary,
You
that
hate
decides-
America? Don't you want to celebrate America?
Mr. Secretary, it is your department
Let's
that
celebrate
decides
this
whether
country.
Toyota's
It's our
next recall
birthday.
is voluntary or mandatory.
No one gets anything from
Certainly,
me.
You can understand, you're not even going to
Nothing.
acknowledge that this is a
No one
bad
gets
look
anything.
in America?
It's a bad
Madam
look that you
Secretary,
take
I have gone
millions of
over my
dollars.
time.
I
I
know,
find
so
your answers
what
out of
I
touch
find is
and irresponsible.
there is no benefit that anyone gets. If I'm going to celebrate America 250, you gave me the ability to partner with America 250, and I did. You told me, this body said celebrate tourism and travel, and that's what I'm doing. All I'm saying is, America, go see your country.
Mr. Secretary, you're really
Families
good
are
at
a
talking.
beautiful
but
thing.
We're gonna go to
you should
Senator
recognize
Britt.
that
And
we have-
businesses around this country have leaned in to celebrate. If you don't want to celebrate America's birthday, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Secretary,
But
for-
American businesses want to celebrate America's birthday. I'm sorry. It's a
Senator
beautiful
Britt,
thing.
you're recognized for your question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary Duffy, thank you so much for appearing before the committee today. I enjoyed being in Alabama with you.
It was great to be with you, too.
And also enjoyed talking about various road trips that my family took growing up, such fond memories and exciting times, and certainly hope that others have the opportunity to experience that as well. So thank you, thank you. I also, well, why don't we just jump right in? You have been very helpful in helping us figure out what is the solution to the I-10 Bridge and Bayway project there in Mobile. We know that that is important not just for Mobile, but it's important for the entire Gulf Coast. And when you're looking at commerce being able to move across our nation, this is a critical component to it. I just want to say thank you to your team, to President Trump, to you. We've made real progress under your leadership. And it is my understanding, obviously, that ALDOT has applied for the interstate system reconstruction and rehabilitation pilot program. And if there is anything additional that we need to be doing or an update that you may have, we certainly look forward to hearing that.
So first of all, I appreciate you and the coach coming in with your DOT team. And it's going to take some creative thinking on how do we get this project done, but you have a commitment from DOT to get our teams to continue to work together. And I think there's some avenues and options for us. Again, it's a critical artery and very important, I know, to your state and to America. So I appreciate the engagement that you've had with me and my team.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to continuing to work. It's been a long time project, and I think it's going to be transformative for the entire region and for the nation. So thank you. Going back to your time in Alabama, and I certainly look forward to getting you down for a football game. Still have that on the list. But when we were at Mercedes, we were celebrating what that manufacturing facility has meant to the entire Tuscaloosa region and to our state. That manufacturing facility coming in ultimately transformed the way that we approach the automotive industry and has been incredible both for Alabama and for the country. Want to make sure that we're still able to dominate economically here and globally. And I know that you've worked hand in glove to make sure that we can do more of that, have more investment here. Can you speak to how this budget will allow you to make sure that manufacturers do invest that additional dollar here?
So first off, if I'm not going to my memory, I think this was the first car manufacturing plant in, at least
exactly
in Alabama,
right. And it was the 30th anniversary. That's right.
And it was the kind of jobs and economic opportunity it drove into your state, I think, was remarkable, and how grateful all of the employees were for that investment in the jobs and the family and economic opportunity. I thought that was remarkable to go to the plant and the innovation that's happening there. Very cool. But just some things that we've thought about is if the government tells car companies what those car companies have to build, that's not necessarily what the American people want to buy. And so with CAFE, we're all about making sure that we have great policies in regard to emissions. And I'm about that. I know you are as well. We love clean air and clean water. The problem with the last administration was they used EVs and used that to come up with a standard that was unattainable for a combustion engine. And the law said you're not supposed to do that. We went back to the lawful standard. And so I hope that car companies around the country will build cars that people want to buy. And when we buy cars, that means more manufacturing. Also, the average age of a vehicle, I believe, is 13 years old on American roads. The technology that's come out that saves lives with these new vehicles, it'd be great if we could get more newer vehicles on the road and get some of those older ones off the road. And in the end, that'll save more lives as people travel with their families.
Absolutely. And look, we have a number of projects in Alabama where we want to see those roads continue to be elevated so that people and products can move safer and more expeditiously across them, whether it's the Northern Beltline project there in Birmingham or I-65, where we have backed up traffic, particularly this time of year when people are going to see our beautiful white sand beaches and they come right down I-65. That backup and backlog, we want to find a solution to. So I look forward when we getting you to Alabama so that you can see all of that firsthand, for sure.
And people love the beaches, and I haven't experienced it, but I heard the congestion there is real.
It is very real. So I'd love to talk to you about continued solutions and what we may do on that as well. Okay. And last but not least, we talked a little bit about maritime the last time that we were together, and when we're looking at how we make sure that we're competitive with China, both on the road when it comes to vehicles, and then obviously with the maritime industry as well. Can you talk a little bit about DOT's role and how you're going to try to help this administration implement its broader maritime strategy, and how the department views the importance of both coastal and inland ports and regional shipbuilding hubs as we restore Americans' maritime dominance? I
appreciate the question because we were the greatest shipbuilders in the world after World War II, and we've ceded shipbuilding to the rest of the world. And maybe we can forget about shipbuilding and maritime when things are normal, but if you go through a time like this and we look at the Strait of Hormuz, we understand how important shipping is. And if the great ships that that sail the seas are not built in America but built somewhere else, I think that's a real risk. And so, yes, we make great military ships, but we have to be able to expand that and make more commercial vessels in the U.S. The Jones Act is part of that, thinking through, and we're doing this right now, and I'd be happy to partner with you on what we're thinking, but how do we make sure we have cargo for some of the ships that we build in America? And there's some thoughtful strategies that we're thinking through right now that can incentivize companies to actually invest and build ships again in America in great places like your home state.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Van Hollen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Senator.
I do want to get to some Maryland-specific questions, but just one question to clarify for the record in terms of airline passengers' Bill of Rights and protections. As you know, the Secretary, Congress passed and codified certain protections. It's also the fact that at the end of the Biden administration, they had proposed a rule with additional protections. And just for the record, I not want to debate this at length. You all have not proceeded with that rule. Is that right?
This was from the last administration you're talking about?
Yeah, the Biden administration had proposed a rule to advance further protections for consumers and airline passengers, and the administration, the Trump administration, decided not to proceed with that, right?
What we decided to do is follow what the FAA reauthorization told us to do, which we have, and there's great protections that you put in the FAA reauthorization.
No, that's why I started with that.
I commend you for that.
I appreciate that.
And we followed what you told me
I just wanted to be clear because I didn't want to leave some confusion to Senator Murray's question, because the Biden administration had then proposed additional protections through the regulatory process, and I think you'll find the record's clear that you did not proceed with that. You withdrew that rulemaking. Let me just move on, Mr. Secretary. Okay. Let me move on, Mr. Secretary, regarding the Key Bridge. And I want to thank you for working with Governor Moore and the state of Maryland on the replacement. As you know, the success of this very critical project requires all parties to continue to work in good faith to see it through. The full federal funding that the Maryland delegation secured provides certainty that the state needs as it pursues a revised contracting proposal for this construction project. Maryland continues to fulfill its responsibilities and requirement to use any funding we secure through litigation or settlements to offset the federal payments for the bridge. And I just want to ask you here in this public setting if you'll commit to continuing to work in good faith with the state of Maryland to rebuild the Key Bridge.
Yes. So I've had a number of meetings with your local DOT and with your governor, and we have a great working relationship. We don't agree on everything, but we agree on making sure this project gets built. It's an important bridge.
No, I appreciate that. And, you know, we worked hard, and the Congress did pass on a bipartisan basis the full federal funding commitment. Obviously, there were issues that I think both you and the state were concerned with the most recent bid. So I'm glad the state has decided to rebid, and I understand that you are too.
I commend the governor for that.
Thank you.
I think we could do better on our pricing and performance. So well done on the governor's behalf.
Thank you. So let me ask you about the bridge investment program. I know Senator Capito had some questions regarding small bridges in West Virginia. Maryland, of course, has an application pending for the American Legion bridge replacement, a nationally significant project. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Your department has said it was, quote, highly recommended. And I just want to underscore the importance of this program for our region and get your commitment to work together to see this project through.
So that's one that I also worked with your state DOT and your governor on. We did both bridges together in our meetings, and I think everyone recognizes how important, if you live in this area, how important that bridge is. It's become a bottleneck. Yep. And so, no, I'm committed to the project.
I appreciate that.
I think everybody who drives here would appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it. You're absolutely right, Mr. Secretary. And look,
when you fly over, you can actually see the
you can see the bottleneck, and sometimes, you know, yes, it's all my constituents that are in there. As we move forward with the reauthorization bill, I want to make clear that I do support including advanced funding appropriations and the funding levels authorized by the IIJA, and believe that we really need to push hard now collectively to avoid this cliff and not go backwards. I do want to mention 3 initiatives I'm pursuing as part of that reauthorization that I'd like to work with you and your team on. One is called the Sarah Debink Langenkamp Active Transportation Safety Act. So she unfortunately died in a terrible accident. She was a bicyclist, and she was hit by a car and killed. She was a State Department employee serving the country. And so this legislation is designed to prevent those kind of terrible tragedies, preventable tragedies going forward. Another is called the Moving Transit Forward Act. We can talk about that. It's about getting more funding for transit. And finally, there's a bill we plan to introduce soon dealing with providing some more guidelines on the installation of guardrails. You know, we all take for granted that when we're driving along the highway, we see those guardrails there, but in fact, many people have been killed, literally speared by guardrails because they've been wrongly assembled. And we're working on legislation to address that. So again, I'm not asking for your commitment to support all 3 of these, but I am asking for your commitment that you and your department work with us to review these pieces of legislation and provide any feedback you can.
I would welcome that opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you. The hearing record will remain open until Friday, May the 29th, for the senators to submit any additional questions you may have. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here, and we request your responses to additional questions within 30 days, if you can do that. And the hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you, Senator.